Toni. This is Earthy Indigo, psychic medium, intuitive, and tarot card reader. This is celebrity psychic channeling and astral teas for Tokoyo, Toni, and Blac Chyna. To book a reading, click on the link in the description now. It's 3 questions for $10. I'm Earthy Indigo. You know I'd love to read for you. Also, you can make donations via Cash App, or you can book your readings via Cash App, purchase anything off of the website via Cash App, or use the website, whichever works for you. Lots of new options are available. Now, first thing I want to jump into is Tokoyo Toni. Now, of course, throughout the media, throughout the news, well, mostly media, internet, social media, we've seen the relationship play out with Tokoyo Toni and Blac Chyna, her daughter. It hasn't been the best. We've seen Tokoyo Toni spaz out. We've seen Blac Chyna spaz out. We've seen, well, not necessarily over her mother, but we've seen through her behaviors and actions of a child that's hurting. Wishing that she had more people that were solid and real, like her mother, to turn to, and not try to, milk her for everything she got. Not to say that, but we'll get into it when we get into the astro teas, which we are. But we've seen how the relationship has played out, and we've seen Tokoyo Toni, say some things through social media like, "That's not my child, I disown her, F that B," just things that you would not, someone in their right state of mind would not say to their child. So we'll start off with Tokoyo Toni. She has a lot of energy in Libra. Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Uranus, Mercury. So she has a heavy stellium of planets. We don't know her birth time, but we do know she has a heavy stellium of planets in Libra. Okay, the Sun 18 degrees in Libra. The Moon 25 degrees in Libra. Jupiter 16 degrees for Libra. Mercury 0 degrees of Libra, and Uranus at 5 degrees of Libra. Now, typically, it's all about how the sign filters through, the planets, or how they're aspecting one another, and how they portray and relate the message of the energy of that zodiac and what it's standardly supposed to do versus what it's doing, because of the way that the planets are aspecting and the way, the conduit, the body is interacting. She's just a vessel. Libra, typically it's supposed to be about fairness, equality, diplomacy, tact, dignity, easy relating, understanding, advocacy, activism. Can be superficial. On the low side, can be superficial, materialistic, vain, materialistic, if I didn't say that, and it wants things to be level, even, sometimes even more so than Scorpio. Scorpio is revengeful, and it can seem like Libra is being revengeful in how it will operate just to make things even or on a level playing field, so it feels comfortable, it feels fair. Now, she has the Sun conjunct Jupiter, And if you ever watched any of her videos, in between her, while she's speaking and talking, if you notice, she does have kind of like a wild laughter, or a loud laugh, or a voice that carries, or a big personality. It could also be someone with the Sun conjunct Jupiter with a big ego or a big pride. And then in the sign of Libra, how pride can play out is, you owe me, or that isn't fair because, well, if you wouldn't have, then I wouldn't have, because it's always relating to the other. Well, it's your fault because if you didn't do that, then I wouldn't have did blank. Well, if you would have had my back, if you would have supported me, if you would have been there for me, it's all about what if you would have done, it would have made me be that much better, or I could have, based on what you could have done, because it is the sign of we. Teamwork, partnership, in conjunction with. So with the Sun conjunct Jupiter, it could be, someone who's very hopeful, widely optimistic, doesn't necessarily give up or, give in no matter what's going on. Like, you notice she's been in situations where she said, oh, I'm homeless, or they coming to get the car, or, they coming to get the house, or I gotta go, and, but she never really seems to be too worried or too bothered, because she has that hope where there'll be a way. And 9 times out of 10 she's pretty lucky, and there always is a way, or someone, even possibly a male benefactor, or maybe even male or masculine family members who come to the rescue, or males that she know. It's in the sign of Libra, which is ruled by Venus, which means she beauty is an eye of the beholder. But in her day, you could tell that she was, very shaped nice, and, in her time had it together or whatever. Now she's a little bit older, and she's still not bad in comparison to what, especially if you stay dependent, whatever. She's still not bad in comparison to a lot of what's out here. And then in certain neighborhoods or areas, I mean, they'll be trying to holler all day, and she'll know how to get to the check anytime, any day of the week, any time of the day. Okay, so, and in this, we'll get more into that in a moment. But with the Sun, which it is in Libra, and it is her Sun, and it is conjunct Jupiter, okay, it's a good chance that during her lifetime, that males were large benefactors to her, whether it even started out as family members, maybe a grandfather or somebody left her a house, or uncles. People looked out for her, especially masculine energy. Now, it may not always been in the way that she wanted them to, or maybe she had to do things that she did not want to do, but it's a good chance that she had always had kind of a safety net, even if it was an uncomfortable one. Even if it was an uncomfortable one. Or dealing with people she, based on her vanity, based on her ego, based on her pride, and who she felt like she should be with or be around, and had this kind of a status. I should have this, I should be at this level, I should have this, I should have that, because you do. Okay, and that's her Mars, which is squaring her Jupiter, and she has Mars in Capricorn, and Capricorn is the sign of the elitist, It's a sign of status. It's a sign of materialism, and it's ambition. The ambition, especially with Mars and Capricorn squaring the Sun and Jupiter in Libra, which is a sign of also of vanity, of materialism, of superficiality on the lower spectrums octaves. She could truly believe and had the ambition. There could have been times in her life where her and little Tokyo could have had the best of the best on the Guess. Back when Tokyo was growing up, it was hot to wear like Guess and DKNY and Feli and Fubu, and she probably growing up had little Tokyo hooked up based off what she was doing. And she probably, it's a great chance that she was dealing with people who had a little change in their pocket. It may not have been like the Kardashians, but she was dealing with people who was probably making 50, 60, 70, 80,000 a year, or 50, 60, 40,000 a year. I'm talking about men. I'm talking about because she used to be a stripper. She used to be a dancer herself. And it they do more than just swinging around that pole, because on a lot of nights it's not gonna be people in there just throwing money like that. So yeah, and she probably dealt with a lot of high profile individuals in her city, in her town. She was probably popular and well known with the Mars and Capricorn squaring the Sun and Jupiter. um, she was probably well known amongst, maybe politicians, political figures, maybe athletes, maybe business owners, because the Mars is in Capricorn. And she would have known how, at that time, she would have known how to speak, talk, do what she had to do to be what she needed to be, Libra, in the presence of who would supply her wants and needs, Libra, in Mars and Capricorn. Now, she does have the Mars in Capricorn, which is squaring, like I said, it's squaring her Sun, and it's also squaring her Jupiter and Libra. On the flip side of that is someone who doesn't know when to quit, who doesn't stop when it's enough, who craps out and then kind of has to start back from scratch, who is kind of like a gerbil running on a wheel, or like somebody running in quicksand. Now, it's not going to be like that for everybody who has the Mars square the Sun, or Mars square Jupiter, but where there's luck and where there's plenty, she could have been the one to blow through it, or she could have been the one to think it's never going to run out, it's never going to end. Also, with the Mars square the Sun, it's a good chance she's had her run-ins with masculine figures who were abusive, maybe getting into it with brothers, getting into it with fathers, getting into it with people, in relationships, and they might have been abusive, but there may have been this codependency, Libra, on that person for them to supply her with what she needed, or pay her rent, pay her bills, pay her lights, whatever the case may be. So, and this could have been someone that at certain times in her life there was kind of spoiled. And I'm not gonna say she never had to grind, get gritty, hustle, and go through shit. No, you went through shit if the Mars is square your Sun. You went through shit with Mars square your Jupiter. You went through some shit. But she is ambitious. She is a go-getter. She's not going to sit still. She's not. She will get it, and she instilled that within her daughter. She will get it. That is the Mars in Capricorn squaring Venus. Squaring Jupiter, and the Sun in Libra, both Venusian energy. Capricorn is the highest you can get on the chart. She is about status. It can also represent someone who may be selfish. Um, selfish. too, especially when it comes to what she thinks she based on this chart is someone with an ego who thinks that she should live a particular type of way based on whomever is around her. If you live like this and you're around me and you call yourself my friend, then I should have it too, because Libra is about the we, and you should share, kind of a thing, despite of whether she deserves it or not. She could feel like just being in the presence of, like, hey, I'm in the presence of, I deserve, with the sun conjunct Jupiter, an overblown ego or overblown sense of pride, especially when it comes to materialism, where she lives, what she drives, how she should be living. Now, to be wherever she is now versus how Blac Chyna is living, she can literally feel like that should be my life. You don't know how to work them people. You don't know how to get in there and really get it, how you supposed to get it. If it was me, then I would, man, by this time you should be a multiply millionaire. Or you should be, and because the way Tokoyo Toni, is living in comparison to Blac Chyna, there can be some jealousy there, some envy there. Like, I know I should be going along with you. Now, and then of course her moon is also, so it's the Mars square, of course the sun and the Jupiter, but then the sun and Jupiter is conjunct the moon, which is also in Libra, which is her, now, the emotional pride, the emotional sense of self, how you react to things. So it's all in connection. She's reacting like the princess, the Libra princess, on the lower octaves, which is, this, all that shit should be mine. You don't know how to work them people right. You don't know what you're doing. Like, if I was you, I would have been had XYZ. Like, it wouldn't be no way. Man, I know what to do with that. I know, like that kind of a thing. Now, she also has her Pluto conjunct her Venus in Virgo. Venus in a chart, and for her to be so heavily Venusian, okay, Venus is the ruler, and her Venus so happens to be in Virgo, is the ruler of all of her Libran planets, because she is, a Libra, which is ruled by Venus. But her Venus is in Virgo. So it gives her a heavy sense of, the Libran energy says work shouldn't have to be this hard. Work shouldn't have to be this hard, or it shouldn't be this hard for you. It doesn't make sense. Why is it? And the Venus in Virgo is earth sign. It's real. It's practical. And it's about work. It rules. Virgo rules over the 6th house in work. Also, with Venus in Virgo conjunct Pluto in Virgo, that close of a conjunction, it's a good chance, and she did work in a sex-related industry. She worked as a stripper. She worked as a dancer. And it's a good chance she may have done other things for money. I mean, it happens. But especially when you have, Pluto conjunct Venus so close, it's a great chance that she has had tumultuous relationships. But she does have even though Venus is in its fall in Virgo, she still has a heavy sexual magnetism, especially with all that Libra energy. She may not, because of the Venus in Virgo. And the Venus in Virgo and the Pluto in Virgo squares her moon. So she may feel like she does not have what she deserves. Um, the Pluto in Virgo, Venus in Virgo conjunct squaring the moon, her emotional nature. She could feel like she does not have what she deserves. She never got all that she worked for. She put in all that work, especially being, the moon being the mother and how you mother. I put in all that work on that child and raised her up and did all this, and this is what the thanks I get, this is what I get, this is what I deserve. Bullshit. And Pluto, of course, is jealousy, it's power, it's control, it's manipulation. And her Pluto in Venus is squaring her moon, which is how she's mothers. So when it comes to, because it's squaring the moon, and moon is how she would mother, which could have also been passed down from her mother to her, there could be jealousy toward the child, and this, or jealousy toward the child that she kind of inherited, because maybe her mother was jealous of her or didn't treat her right or gave her up, in some form or fashion. Also, when it comes to love, though, she could always feel like she's kind of left out there or heartbroken. So she does also have that Pluto and Venus square her sun, and also that Pluto and Venus is squaring her Jupiter. Wow. Now, when you have Pluto square Jupiter and Venus, and when you have Pluto square Jupiter, Pluto square the sun. Now, first, with Pluto square the sun, she could have had in her time, of course, some life or death situations due to, romantic relationships. It could have even been like, how Cardi, the information with Cardi just came out, where she said she did an audio where she was drugging dudes and robbing them and stuff. Now, I'm not saying that Tokoyo was doing anything like that, but there could have been life or death situations where it came to prostitution, um, the strip club, men stalking her, her stalking other people, men stalking her, wanting her time, attention, and affection, or them feeling like they gave her too much and she gave them too little, and then her really feeling like, well, shit, I don't feel like I got half of what I deserve, and you think you gave me too much. So all of those types of feelings, when you have Pluto in Virgo, Pluto and Venus in Virgo conjunct, and then squaring the sun and Jupiter in Libra. Also feeling like she could have had to work extremely hard for relationships, for love, for what she desired or what she wanted. When, and that could be from her perspective, yet from outsiders' perspective, they like, oh, that dude just gave you $5,000, or that girl, or that so and so just bought you this car, or you just, and she like, it still ain't enough. I could do more with that. I could do more. I could have more. You know, and it can be, enough is never enough. An insatiable appetite for an insatiable. Also, with all that Libran energy and the squares from Pluto and Venus, an insatiable appetite to be known, an insatiable appetite to be wealthy, to be in power, and to be in control as well. And to have her hands very close to the cookie jar. And it could feel like torture, not getting what she wants and desires, especially when her daughter is driving around in like $200,000-$300,000 cars, living in $1 million house, and all that kind of stuff. It can feel like absolute torture to her to, you know, be in her regular, maybe even suburban kind of an area wherever she is, and for her daughter to be out in California, Hollywood, you know, and she can see, you know, living it up. Now, where the instability comes from, instability appears to come from, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional or anything of that nature, anything of that nature, but where the instability seems to come from is she has her Uranus, which is the planet of, it is the planet of ingenuousness, but it also can be the planet of eccentric behavior, uncontrollable urges, nervousness, neuroticness, um, especially when it's so close to Mercury. She is Mercury conjunct Uranus. Okay, so with Mercury conjunct Uranus being so close and working as one, it can make her appear very nervous, unhinged, uncontrollable, psychotic, um, talking out the side of her neck, crazy. But on the flip side of that, yes, she does appear especially if you've seen a lot of her videos and her behavior. She twerking, she dancing, you know, wanting attention, wanting love, wanting validation. I'm pretty too. You know, I got a body too. Like, I'm cute too. That's all that Libra energy. Look at me, look at me. Take my picture, take my picture. Validate me, validate me. Tell me I'm beautiful. Tell me I'm special. But the Virgo energy squaring on the Libra is working hard for that validation and that thumbs up and that sign of approval. But during her day, regardless, even up until now, I know that she's still receiving things and that people still give her things and that she still has, even though she may be even though she may be pretending that she does not. With the chart like hers, enough is never enough. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I can't diagnose, cure, treat, prevent, or anything of that nature. And Pluto conjunct Venus can also be using your beauty or your sexuality in the wrong ways, because she has a high elevated sense of a high elevated magnetism. So I know that she still gets, I know she does. It's too much Venus all through her chart. She's too ambitious. She has Mars in Capricorn, which is the driving force, the gas pedal of her chart, which is trining her Saturn in Taurus, which is another Venusian ruled sign. I mean, Taurus is Venusian ruled, and her Saturn, you know, is in Taurus, and her Mars in Capricorn is trining it. So there is a driving force for materialism, for stability, and for the finer things in life. And what's aggravating it all is the Pluto conjunct the Venus in Virgo, which is the sign of work, squaring the sun, the Jupiter, and the moon. It's like it's always this close, and she's always peering in the window, but she can't quite grab it. Yet she should look around her and be grateful for all of the things that she does have, because I know with all of that Venusian energy and Plutonian energy, she does attract a lot of what it is that she needs to sustain, and even plus more, way more than me, way more than average, you know. She does attract a lot, yet it's never enough. It's a chart of an insatiable appetite, an insatiable appetite. And she has went through some shit. When you have the squares from Pluto to the Sun, or you know, she's went through some dark times, especially with family members, especially a father figure, masculine figures. Maybe even they were trying to steer her in the right direction, and it may have seemed like a prison to her, and she could have ran off or ran away. But she does have Mercury, like I said, conjunct the Uranus in Libra, which is why she appears to be, like I said, unhinged and talking out the side of her neck. We don't know what she on, what she doing, one minute she twerking, then she talking about conspiracy theories, and then she talking about, Jesus saves, and the Lord damn you, and then she cussing, and we don't know which direction she's coming from. That is that Uranus so close to her Mercury. Okay. um like I said, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. It's extremely intelligent, but sometimes, and it's all about how it filters through the other planets. Sometimes when it's too close, you can get behavior like Toni's, somebody who will just punch you in the face, or at cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so to speak. And then she also has the Mars and Capricorn square Uranus. So that is the cut punch you in the face. The talking out the neck is the Uranus conjunct the Mercury in Libra. This uncontrollable urge to speak her mind. It's truth. Uranus is truth, unfiltered truth. It comes off shocking, and what she says sometimes can be shocking. It is to shock, it is to make you uncomfortable, it is to throw you off your rocker. Okay. And then the Mars, which is squaring Uranus, could make her violent, volatile, maybe unsafe. If she doesn't get what it is that she feels she wants, maybe even tyrannical. You know what I'm trying to say. But let's quickly look at Blac Chyna. Now, what Blac Chyna inherited, which you can see, is this is something that's a strong gene in their family. She looks a lot like her mother, right? But she also natally inherited the Sun conjunct Jupiter, just like her mother. And they're both in Venusian signs. And you see how powerful astrology is? Now, the mother has Sun conjunct Jupiter in Libra. The daughter has Sun conjunct Jupiter in Taurus, and both signs are ruled by Venus. One is more stable, still superficial and materialistic, but more stable. And then one is more, of course, it's an air sign, so it's a little bit more all over the place, but it's still dominant and has a strong leadership abilities because it's a cardinal sign, Libra. Blac Chyna. Now, what's interesting about the charts and why Blac Chyna views her mother the way that she does. Blac Chyna has her Lilith, the darker side of the moon, okay? The uncomfortable side of the moon in the side of Virgo. So a lot of the negative or underbelly, I'll say the underbelly of Virgo, being critical, being nitpicky, maybe even being neurotic, have mental health issues, what is that, where you always think you're sick and you're not, something's wrong, and it's not, and then always complaining. The underbelly of Virgo is at Lilith. Her Lilith is at 15 degrees of Virgo. Now, for her personally, she could be a mommy on the dark side who's, always picking in her kids' hair, or, taking her tongue and wiping their eyebrows, and why'd you spill that juice, and oh my God, I just cleaned that table, But back to Tokoyo and Blac Chyna. So Blac Chyna has Lilith at 15 degrees of Virgo. And then, like I told you, her mother has Pluto and Venus in Virgo. So her Pluto and Venus is conjuncting Tokoyo Toni's Pluto and Venus is conjuncting Blac Chyna's Lilith. So Blac Chyna could have this eerie feeling, especially with Pluto there, and especially with Venus there. This eerie feeling of This woman may kill me. I can't, trust her. The darker side of the moon, and it is also opposing. Not only that, Tokyo Tony's Pluto and Venus is opposing Tokyo's moon, her Pisces moon. Tokyo, Blac Chyna has a moon, and her moon is in Pisces. The darker side of the moon is in Lilith. Okay? So, let's break that down. Let's unpack that really quick. Tokyo Toni has her Pluto and her Venus in Virgo conjunct Blac Chyna's darker side of the moon, her Lilith. Okay? All of these planets are opposing Blac Chyna's natal moon in Pisces. Okay? So there can be this eerie uncomfortability when it comes to her mother, and being that Blac Chyna's moon is in Pisces, which is highly intuitive and very sensitive and emotive, she could feel the negative energy from her mother. She could feel that, yes, you birthed me. Yes, I know underneath all of that you love me, but above all of that, there is something not right with you. There is something dark. There is something dangerous. You may harm me. You may hurt me. You may hurt my children. It's just a lot of, yes, does she wish she was not, it's an energy that would say my mother isn't well. There is something wrong with her. She is not well, and she is not safe. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I can't diagnose, cure, treat, prevent, or anything of that nature. But based on the astrology, with the Pluto, the Venus, and the Lilith all opposing Blac Chyna's moon, she could have also felt unloved, unnurtured, uncared for, unprotected, like she was thrown to the darkness or the wolves of the world, and maybe even thrown to the wolves by her mother, by her own mother at some points in her life. Maybe she felt unloved, unnurtured, uncared for, and unprotected. Like I said, like she was given to the savages by her mother in some form or capacity. And that also that her mother isn't necessarily safe, or that she could be dangerous. And then also, if you notice, with how Tokyo is, always talking about conspiracy theories and the devil and she said something about Beyonce and all the symbolism. That is also that Pluto, that Pluto conjunct her Venus. But you can see it pop up in Tokyo in Blac Chyna's chart. It's opposing the moon in Pisces, where someone who takes the darkness, which is Pluto, and mysticism, the dark mysticism, and mixes in with spirituality, the ethereal, things that are out of this realm, out of this world, and she expresses them. She expresses the esoteric, and she expresses religion, and that's the sun conjunct the Jupiter. And both of them have the sun conjunct Jupiter. And if you go to Tokyo, if you go to Blac Chyna's page, she often, every now and then she'll get to talking about God, and and I believe, and I'm gonna believe. You'll find when people have heavy aspects with Jupiter, that they're either really into religion in some form or fashion, or you'll hear them talking a lot about God, or you'll kind of hear them really into spiritualism, or they want to know more, they want to learn more, they feel it within their soul. I have to know more about these things, these magical, mystical things. But you often hear Tokyo Toni saying things that, 1 minute she talk about Jesus and praying for their souls, and then she like, yeah, y'all them serpents, y'all them snakes, Yeah, you're them, you're, yeah, demonic this, demonic that. You'll hear her saying that. And yeah, that's the Pluto conjunct. Well, those are all the squares from Pluto. The paranoia, and then the mental health that's a little bit off the chain, off the rocker, is the Uranus conjunct Mercury. She expresses it, she says it, out loud, and it can sound uncomfortable. Um, unhinged, like that somebody who might be a little schizophrenic or bipolar or split personality kind of a thing, which isn't uncommon when you have Uranus conjunct Mercury or in very close orb through aspects. You might have someone who's extremely intelligent, like off the chain intelligent in how they operate, right? But yet, could pass tests and learn information. They may like to study all the time, do a lot of reading, but yet they could have these moments where they're completely unhinged and manic. You can have someone that's manic, manic depressive, or like I said, bipolar, mania, with aspects like that. Now, Blac Chyna, before we wrap some things up, Blac Chyna also inherited, a lot from her mother as far as, what she did for a living. She became a stripper. She learned a lot from her mother. And also with Tokoyo Toni, Saturn is in Taurus. And her Saturn is conjunct Blac Chyna's Jupiter and Sun. They make through synastry, they will make a 3 planetary conjunction in Blac Chyna's chart. So it says that the mother, she played a large role, and that the mother was the mother and the father, because it's Tokoyo Toni Saturn conjunct Blac Chyna's Sun and Jupiter. So the mother was indeed the mother and the father. She was indeed, the teacher earlier on. And she may have been, very hard and critical on Blac Chyna and Blac Chyna's emotional well-being, her femininity with the oppositions to the moon, and just very critical of her for a lot of years. It could be like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Tokoyo Toni and Blac Chyna. But anyway, with those oppositions made toward Blac Chyna's moon in Pisces, first of all, the moon in Pisces for Blac Chyna is why we see her self-medicating. A lot of time on the lower octaves, when you have heavy Pisces placements, you could be an alcoholic, you could be a pill popper, you could be a druggie, anything to stop make me feeling, anything so that I don't have to feel so much, okay, and that I can escape this reality. And she's rooted in reality because she has the Sun conjunct Jupiter in Taurus, which is an earth sign, which is the realm of reality, realism. Now, it is beauty, it is vanity, but it's also security, okay? And the Taurus will secure that bag and work hard for it. She's not a dummy, she's not a dodo. She does have her Mercury and Venus in Gemini. So she's slick too, and she got a lot of slickness, and her slickness from her mother. She inherited it, but she's not a dodo. And she also inherited the aspects of, see how her mother had in the sign of, this is how dope astrology is, in the sign of Libra, which is ruled by Venus, which is an air sign, air, Libra. She had the mother, Tokoyo Toni, has Jupiter, excuse me, she has, before before we run out of time, y'all. But she has Uranus conjunct Mercury, right? In Aries Libra, which is ruled by Venus. Okay? Aries Libra ruled by Venus. Tokoyo Toni has an Aries Venus in Gemini, oppose Uranus and Saturn, and her mother Saturn conjuncts her Jupiter and Sun. So they're almost like these mirrored reflections of each other. Definitely a love-hate relationship, definitely some fear there. Blac Chyna doesn't stay away from her mother for nothing. It's based on the chart, and what's shown in the charts is the feeling of unsafety, a feeling of it not being safe to be around her mother for long periods of time, a fear of each other possibly killing each other, physical assault, mental assault. Blac Chyna, you heard when her mother was yelling at her on the phone, and her Blac Chyna really wasn't saying much of anything. She wasn't talking back. She wasn't saying too much of anything. It was like a scared child, a scared child. She wasn't saying too much. But do you think that if they got around each other for too long of a period of time, Blac Chyna want to be around for her children. Blac Chyna wants to be around for her own kids. And she don't want it to get to the point where they both physically hurt each other, or where Blac Chyna ends up in jail because she did something to her mother, or because her mother did something to her. Because that's how volatile the chart is between them two, and how they, how they would interact. Now, mind you, Blac Chyna's Neptune is at 9 degrees of Capricorn, which is conjuncting her mother's Mars. So with that conjunction, the mother is like, you're driving me to drink. And remember, she has the moon in Pisces. You're driving me to self-medicate. Or I'm, living out my brokenness, my pain through, superficiality, materialism, self-medicating. I'm just living. But she is a survivor, and her mother is also a survivor. But between both of their charts, it is a lot of darkness and fear from the daughter's chart to the mother's chart. Like, the daughter is scared of the mother, and she loves her mother, but she knows her mother is not well. And based on her mother's chart, it is someone who could be heavily driven toward materialism, toward status, maybe some identity issues, identity crisis, and some mental instability. That doesn't take away from her beauty. That doesn't take away from her ability to get better, and flipping those aspects to the higher octaves and the most positive side, they can be. But based on it, and based on what we've seen so far with them both, the daughter is more stable than the mother. Despite of how Blac Chyna be acting in public, the daughter is still more stable than the mother. She does have that emotional moon in Pisces, but the daughter is more stable than the mother. The mother could be spastic, like manic, unhinged, and it's this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And from Blac Chyna's chart, It's just someone who's trying to heal. Someone who just, wants to feel safe and wants to feel loved. Wants to feel safe and wants to feel loved. But in the meantime, she gonna get that check because she a Taurus. And she got the sun conjunct Jupiter in Taurus. That's wealth, in the side of Taurus. But there can be, and the mother got the sun conjunct Jupiter too, but it's in Libra, which is the side of I can gain but through others. I can gain but through partnership. I can gain but through negotiations. Through it's not just off the soul of myself. And it just so happened to be her daughter, and coming up it just so happened to be, whoever it was in the strip club or the city or around the way when she was getting to the bag. But her daughter got to the bag. Because her placements are different. It's in Taurus, and Taurus is the earth, and Taurus means wealth. It's security. It's Now for Blac Chyna, when they say security issues, security when it comes to beauty, insecurity issues. She does have the sun square Mars as well. Her mother has the sun square Mars. That's another aspect she inherited. And the daughter also has the sun square Mars, just in different signs. Still both air and earth. Tokoyo Toni is Mars in Capricorn, square the sun in Libra. Air and earth. Blac Chyna, sun in Taurus, 21 degrees. Mars in Aquarius, 23 degrees. Air and earth. Which is also that Aquarian Uranian energy. The mother has Mercury conjunct Uranus, and then the daughter came out with a Mars in Aquarius. You see how that works? Like, you can see how powerful astrology is. And anyway, with her sun square her Mars, it's where Tokoyo Toni, where Blac Chyna can come off as unhinged or uncontrolled. And when we see her throwing the baby stroller, or when she was yelling at Rob that time on the cell phone, like, "You're still fucking other bitches," like that. That's that. That's that. Yeah. So that's where she comes off. She gained a lot of aspects, and she inherited a lot of ways from her mother, but she is still the more stable of the two. From the mother's chart is way more all over the place and airy, which means it can go from north to the south to the east to the west, especially with that Uranian energy conjunct Mercury, and then the Mars squaring the Uranus. It can go from north to the east to the south to the west with her. And the reason why Blac Chyna is more stable is because she doesn't have that square to Uranus. She actually has the trine. She has her sun trine Uranus, and she does make money from the internet. She does make money from the internet and through business and commerce. Sun in Taurus, Uranus in Capricorn. Uranus being technology, Capricorn being status. She does have that. And then Taurus being beauty and all the pretty little things, and that's what she sells to the population, which is Uranus and Capricorn. She sells a lot of beauty products, and she sells herself, and like her mother sold herself, but just in different ways, different time periods. Yeah. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way when I say her mother sold herself, but she did. She was a stripper. That is selling yourself. And I don't mean that in a negative way if any strippers listening. No, I do not. You are no. I don't mean that in a negative way at all. You gotta do it moving, and just be safe. But her mother did sell herself. She was a dancer, she was a stripper. And that is yourself. You are the product, and your service is your beautiful body. And you're up there twirling around or whatever it is that you do. That is selling yourself. It is a service. And Pluto conjunct Venus in Virgo, sexuality in a service related industry. Pluto in Virgo conjunct Venus in Virgo. The daughter did the same thing, but she was able to get out of it. Yeah. So anyhow, click a link on the description and book a reading. It's been a pleasure. Bye, y'all.